Have you got 10 minutes? Of course you do. Whether you're just waking up and getting ready for your day, or easing off to sleep, I hope you'll join me for my 10 tales for tired adults. Tale the second, A Ship on the Sea. Look there, a ship on the sea. Amidst and amongst the great roaring blue, it seems like a little dot, a little nothing, a cup full of souls, surrounded by the undrinkable. Let's go in a little closer, shall we? There, on the deck, do you see them? Those little shapes are people, tiny figures dancing their strange dance around the deck as though playing on a chessboard, each working hard and doing anything and everything they can to pretend they don't know about the great and dangerous ocean all around them, which even now is toying with the idea of swallowing them whole. A little closer, perhaps. Now, do you see the men? And there, do you see the captain? Each man is attending to his buckets and mops, or his telescopes, or the great wheel at the helm, whilst all around them, as though they cannot see, the waves billow and crash over the deck like a pot bubbling over. All except for the captain, of course. You can tell he is the captain by his broad-brimmed hat. Well, you know that. And from the way that the others bow and scrape obsequiously, even as they twist and turn this way and that, bailing the water from the deck in an unending flurry. Yes, sir. No, sir. Scoop the water, throw it out. Yes, no, all through again. Of course, there are some more men up above in the crow's nest, though no nest-proud bird would ever claim it for their own. Those nearest to the clouds shout the loudest, letting out loud squalling cries to their comrades, which are whipped away into the wind. Still, the men below raise their ever-trusting faces, hopeful that the next cloud or the next rock or shadow in the water might in fact be land. But it never is. Meanwhile, the cold, cold, cold ocean surrounds the ship and those clinging to it as tightly as barnacles to the stern. Only water can seep between tightly clenched fingers, flenching them away insidiously, because the ocean knows what you and I know, that it is only a matter of time until the ship... Let us be like the oblivious captain and his garrulous crew for the moment, and turn our attention away from the obvious threat, at least for a little longer. After all, there are buckets to be filled and buckets to be emptied, people on land to dream of, to pray for, to cry for, jobs to be done which fill the time like so much rain. Days pass like this, each one feeling like a year. The crew's hands are red and chipped as one, all except of the captain, of course, who only needs his hands to point or hold a dainty teacup or tick something off the task list, which he adds a new task to every few minutes. It makes him look busy, it's efficient, it's meaningful. And on the men scurry, never stopping, because to pause might be to catch the glinting eye of a crewmate, tearful from unasked questions. To pause might be to wonder why they need to keep filling these buckets and emptying them at all. Perhaps I'm being unfair. Perhaps they know their fate and have also accepted it. Perhaps all this scurrying and shoveling and scooping is bravery. Because you see by now, it's inarguable. The ship is sinking. And although only a few men allow themselves, however briefly, to consider the never-ending fathoms which lie below the surface, teeming with curious flounder and introverted beasties, and although some others believe, strangely, in the existence of a great wooden slide curving deep below, which will summon them, send them in a deep curve down to the ocean floor and back up spinning into the evening sky. And one at least fears that to sink into the ocean will be to sink straight down to hell. Well, in spite of this, every handshake, half smile and a nod of recognition from first light to last acknowledges that, yes, perhaps the end is on its way. Yet what none of them has thought to ask in those days that feel like years, since the crew began this mindless and urgent bailing out, is why they are sinking. Why a fine ship like this one might begin to sink as though from nowhere, what cause there might be, and indeed how one might begin to rectify such a problem. Oh, how I would dearly love to say to you that there is some plucky young cabin boy, hammocked below decks, conceiving an idea of such smart innovation that the egg timer of my story is, in fact, a level beach of sand. Yet I cannot. Even as my second best quill races across the page, in another witless effort to keep these men alive, I know that such a man is simply not on board. Or if he is, then he is stretched too thinly with his scooping and bailing and running and crying to even find the time to think that there might be something that could begin to be done. And meanwhile, those who ought to help the captain in his cabin, polishing medals from some long-dead king, the second mate rushing through those tasks the captain besought to delegate in all his wisdom, and the tertiary crew, menial men made bolder by attire, and those beneath them who fetch and carry their fine shoes and cloaks. In fact, even those below, the crewmen on shift exhausted, and those who have just been relieved and lie in their bunks in the stench of the sightless dark, terrified by uncertainty and unable to sleep, and never those in the deepest regions, waterlogged all, those souls in the devil pit beneath decks, trapped in an endless to and fro, wresting the oars from here to there and back again like some mindless cook grappling a sentient batter. Those have the least thoughts of them all, thoughts being riven from their minds by the endless labour and hunger, all to keep this assailable ship stationary in the water. And so, the hole in the ship's side remains. In fact, it grows, almost as though the crew were a village of kindly parents trying to cultivate it. It blooms, it blossoms under their attention, seething with life, until its great nothingness begins to consume the very thing which gave it life from the inside out. And soon it has doubled, then tripled in size, shaking the weakest bodies out like a pepper shaker, and watching with childish interest as their bodies clamour for help, gigantic starfish, before they cease altogether, then sink and bob away. And still those above sleep Wake, work, carouse, repeat, either oblivious or choosing to be so. We cannot be sure, for they are long dead now. Not a man amongst them seeks to mount an inspection and find the source of the problem. One of the tertiary men floats the idea of having a look around, but this ambitious concept is soon swallowed up by the ensuing disagreements about forming a committee, electing a leader, and forming a 10-point stratagem to achieve said look around. And by the time they have made this decision, believe me, they will be drowned, one and all. So the boat flounders on, ever more ragged and mouldering, an inch lower in the water every day despite the crew's aching shoulders. Meanwhile, the captain seems not to care, and the second mate seems not to notice, no matter the countless missions they have been on, no matter the ships they have heard of failing through careless management. And so the ship's fate is set. It will drown, along with the helpless souls aboard, sooner or later or both, and in a month or so the admiral of the fleet will gaze out of the window of his land-locked, gilt-trimmed office and remark that it could not be helped. It was an act of God. How terribly unfair. But you and I do not need to know about this. You and I do not need to linger. In fact, let us away. It is, after all, terribly unpleasant, and there are errands to run, and people to please, and deadlines within deadlines to meet or miss, or both. And so, worry not. Let us turn our eyes upon something happier. We can abandon ship, even if they cannot. For what will be, as the song proclaims, and it is ever better to look away from such things and be positive. Isn't that right? Thank you for listening to 10 Tales for Tired Adults, Story 2, A Ship on the Sea by E. Braidwood. Whether you are easing into your morning or falling asleep, like, follow and subscribe to hear more of these 10-minute tales.